Hey guys, welcome back to DSC Afterhours. Today, in collaboration with DSCLPU, we're going to be talking about hackathons and overnight projects. My name is Ashutosh Kaushik. I'm a third year student and an INNOCO member at DSC VIT. And with me, I have Tanmay, Sharanya, and Bose. So, guys, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi guys, I'm Tanmay Srivastav. I'm a member of DSC VIT and I'm a BTech second year student studying CSE. I am someone who's very new to the domain of technology and I've attended a few hackathons and I'm here with you all to share my experiences. Over to
Hi
Bose.
everyone. Hi everyone. I'm Sharanya Bhargavi. I'm from Lovely Professional University, BTech second year student. I'm a Flutter app developer and I'm currently working on AR as well. Over to you, Bose.
Hey, hi. I'm Sohadya Bose. I'm currently doing my graduation in BTech Computer Science and Honors. I am more into Android development and I'm also the co-member of DSCLPU.
Yeah. So here, let's first start with what hackathons are. So I would like to begin with it. Hackathon is basically a learning opportunity where you experiment, collaborate with tech-savvy people, and innovate to build something new in a given short time, something like 24 hours or 36 hours or something, sometimes even for a week. So during hackathon, you build something that a practical solution for a particular idea. So now we need to know why we need to go with hackathons.
Yeah, that's great, Sharanya. Yeah. So actually, why hackathon is a very important and interesting aspect, I think. All the newbies looking forward to have their first hack might be wondering, why hackathon? So many of you are aware that hackathon is something we go, we build stuffs, upload in GitHub, we get judged, okay, and we work with amazing people, get swags, all this food. But I'd like to share something which will definitely make you feel, wow, I should even take it much more serious. I'll be saying there are a lot of new startups and old startups, those who are actually into millions, like earning in millions. There was a hackathon back in 2011 named Techcrunch Hackathon. So two young mind like you all, like us, namely Matt Halls and John Wilkinson, went into the hackathon with a very clear concept that they will do something, right? They had a very clear concept, they'll do something. So eventually they worked on application. They made an application, right? That actually an application that allows the business to look after the legal documentation safely. So back then it was a very innovative idea. They created an application. And guess what? Like after 5 to 6 months, they grab a funding around $650,000. So yeah. So Docracy.com is now operating more than 30 different countries. So hackathon is not there is no limit. It's a unique platform where you can actually give your ideas and can make some new things, can generate job opportunities, can actually make a lot of things, which is really amazing to see and experience. So yeah, I think that makes sense. I'll be looking forward to see you guys come up to us by your ideas and all.
Yeah, that's the one really good thing about hackathons, I guess. Anything can happen there. I think before we move on, I guess I'd like to mention one thing is that at any point in this podcast, if you guys have any questions, you can ask them in the live chat and we'll be very happy to answer them.
Yeah. Oh, now that we're talking about hackathons, we've discussed as to what they are and why we should go about it. A rather pertinent question that comes up in someone's mind is, how do you go about coming up with an idea for a hackathon? And I'll tell you guys a short story about my first hackathon, which is nothing that is too far back into the past. It's something pretty recent. So I went to a hackathon, a virtual hackathon with three of my friends, and again, we were some people who did not know anything about technology. I, for myself, did not even know HTML and CSS, which most newbies do. So we were some of us were completely clueless, but we did have people who did know some front-end development, and all of us were willing to learn things. All right, and now again, we knew what our skill set was, and we had to come up with a hackathon with an idea which could take into account what our skill set is and make it into something productive. So we came up with a pretty simple idea. This was something during the onset of the pandemic, and we came up with an idea about how to help people in the lockdown. How do you provide them with some resources for education or some resource for some good movies? And that time, it's not something that was a pretty big thing. But again, during the phase, we learned a lot. And if you keep looking at it, the main thing that is there is your idea needs to be something that you yourself can implement. At least it has to be something that you can, think into details about.
Yeah,
And I
that's
think
pretty
that is
true.
what matters.
Yeah, so that reminds me of my first hackathon. Just like you guys, who I think what a lot of you are watching right now, I didn't really know much. Like just like then, when my first hackathon, I was rather clueless of what was happening. And I think I could have really helped with some podcast like this, which could tell me, what I should be doing. So in this podcast right here, we're going to be talking about a lot of things, and including in those things will be some tips and tricks basically to get you started for your first hackathon, something that's going to help you fare well in your first hackathon, because sometimes a hackathon can be something that is something rather foreign for a junior, for a first year. So in my first hackathon, we did implement a really interesting idea, which is something I'll come into, I'll talk about later when we start talking about some other things. But I just have to say that even I was a beginner. I was really bad at what I started doing. I was just a web developer who knew uh, HTML and CSS. We tried to make something, it didn't really work out. But in that 48 hours in that hackathon, it was really, really good. It was really good. It's a really good experience for me.
Hackathon which actually stand out to be like something of a learning achievement rather than winning a competition. This is what I feel.
Yeah, exactly, Sharanya. That's what, like, I'll be sharing one of my experience, like, winning and like winning what you actually for. Like, what happened is that, when I was in first year back then, last year, so we were actually pairing up for a hackathon, a hack in India. So we never thought of like winning something, but ended up winning, qualifying the second, like last round. What exactly happened is that we didn't knew much into this tech and all. I was in development, like doing something in Android stuff, and my rest team member were doing in another technologies. So we had a very clear vision that we will do this. Like whatsoever we have, we didn't like run after knowing too many languages. It was a very clear concept that we will do something which will be like unique and which is presentable, right? So like that actually helped us a lot. Like I came to know a lot of my friends say that we have done this, we have done that, but eventually ended up doing nothing. So I think clear vision is very important, and winning is a very good aspect, right? But I believe that winning your satisfying yourself, like I have done this kind of thing, I have given my 100%. I think that's the matter the most, right? You have gone there to learn something, right? So that the matter most, like what you have, and we are coming back from the hackathon, you are getting much more experiences with your team as well as the new technologies. So
Yeah,
that's the matter, I
yeah,
think, most. Yeah.
exactly. That's very true, I think. So I think something related to that, we have a question from Aditya Unyal. He asked, does hackathon really teach us hacks for real? Like, do they tell us how they do it, or just show us a practical example but not giving the method? So Aditya, I think you're not completely clear on the idea what hackathons are. So a hackathon is basically a 24-hour to 48-hour a competition, where basically you have to build a product from scratch. Like you have to start from the ground up and build something in that time span. So it may not be exactly about hacking something. It's more about finding a solution to a problem, making a better solution for an already existing solution. Let's say something like that basically. So let's talk about yeah. So let's talk about how to even come up with an idea for a hackathon. Yeah. So usually, I'll talk to you about my first hackathon. Okay. So usually, when you come up with an idea, there's only two ways you can come up with an idea. Okay. It's either in a way that it's some real life problem that you are facing, that you have faced, or you think people are facing, or it's some technological issue that you can solve if you have the level of expertise in that specific topic. in my first hackathon, my idea was something related to what I was facing. I wanted to build something that could help me, but eventually I couldn't really build it because I wasn't that good. But that was that's the whole process that you have to follow. And eventually, when you're when you go into a hackathon, it's all about the learning experience, and I think that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
getting an idea is actually a Herculean task. Almost everything that you seem to think would probably have already been built. But one thing you need to remember is it's a hackathon and you need to innovate something. So if you could bring up an innovation to an already existing solution, that could also make your hack a unique one. All that matters is a practical solution for a problem.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's there. So, okay. Now that we've talked about ideas, another question that again springs up into one's mind is when you're going to attend a hackathon, how do you prepare? Now, this is something that might be going on in the minds of a lot of people who are about to attend their first hacks, or are planning on attending their first hacks. And I mean, it's something that is pretty simple. First of all, if you have a good idea as to what you're going to develop in the hack beforehand, you can start learning things related to it. Say, for example, you know that you are going to develop a web app relating to something relating to hospitals and their databases, and you've decided this quite early on, maybe a week before the hack. So now, even if you do not have any sort of skills under your belt, you can take this 1 week and you can start learning about things related to this. A web app would require a backend, so start learning about backend. Start learning about HTML, CSS. Start learning about database. You won't be able to learn the entire language and the entire frameworks in one go, but you will have a decent idea as to how to go about your hack and finish your project in a good time. And if you have your idea just before the hack, you don't have to go about learning all the languages that are involved. You just have to do an innovative and good Google search, and
I think,
then
yeah, exactly.
you can.
One important thing about hackathons is no one, honestly, almost no one knows everything that they need to finish their idea. Because if they really knew everything they needed to finish, they would have done it beforehand, right? Anyway, so like it is very important to know that the whole idea of a hackathon is to be able to learn something new and implement it in that hackathon. That's why everyone benefits from a hackathon. Even if you don't win, you benefit from it, which is a very important thing, I think, to mention. So we have a question right here, which is what should we keep in mind before attending the hack? I think this is a very good question, and the very basic answer for this is there's a lot of things you have to keep in mind, actually. That is, so let's start with the idea. We already discussed that we have to come up with an idea that is that we can implement. Sometimes it can be too hard, and we'll get on that. We'll talk about what if an idea that we have decided is too hard to implement. And other than the idea, there's also a few things you need to keep in mind. I think Tanmay will accompany me with this, is that you need to get a good amount of sleep before going to a hackathon, because you're probably going to be, like, if you want a good chance at winning, you're going to be awake for at least like 36 hours or 48 hours sometimes, depending on the hackathon. So it's going to be at least one all-nighter. Sometimes it even becomes 2 all-nighters, because some hackathons are, even 76 hours, as we know of it. And it's very important that you get a good amount of sleep before you go there. And, you should be prepared with some food with you, because sometimes you might need it while developing,
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And there's one more thing that, I've experienced a lot. Whenever you're attending a long hack, do not eat a lot before the hack. I mean, I keep telling this to all my friends as well, but it's a rather small but a very important thing. And it's pretty logical. If you eat a lot, you tend to feel sleepy a lot. And while you're sleeping or you're feeling sleepy or you're drowsy, you are not able to work with 100% efficiency. and that might hamper the development of your project and the idea. So, have a balanced diet, have a good amount of sleep, and that is what is required before, you go for a hack.
Yeah, Tanmay, like I would like to add one point on that. Yeah, exactly what you were saying is really important for all the newbies. Like many of the people, those who are really, excited to, attend their first hack, always keep one thing in mind that we have experience is that, like, it's a like hackathon, you can compare it to a marathon, right? So it doesn't really matter like how fast you run, in first 200 or 300 meter. It's how you end up, like, the finishing line. So yeah, it's a hackathon is a continuous long process for 24 to 72 hours. Okay, so give your best towards the last, like keep your consistency, don't run too fast so that you actually breathe out at the middle. So make a good strategy that okay, before 7 days I'll not take too much stress, so that my best would not be ruined at that day when I need to show my best. So keep this thing in your mind that I need to give my best on that particular day. So you need to make a proper schedule. What we do as of like newbie mistake is that we start doing lot. So eventually it becomes a problem for us. We don't understand this. So I think we should keep this in your mind. When you are going for a first hack or continuing, any competition. Like yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think before moving on, we have another question right here, which is, let me see. Yeah, should we learn web dev or any dev before ML or the other way around? That certainly depends on your own interests, Pragya. So why you see people learning web dev a lot when they're beginners is because it's easy. Okay, initial stages of being a web developer is really easy, and initial stages of being an ML developer, like machine learning developer, is not that easy because you need to have some certain knowledge of linear algebra and statistics, basically you could say, and that's why you'll see that that's a lot of beginners don't really go for ML. But it's certainly a good thing to go for at the beginning if you're interested in that, if you have the amount of knowledge. There's a lot of courses which will help you bring you up to speed in all these topics that you need to know before going for ML. Yeah, the next topic that we have in mind that we're going to be talking about is, let's see, persistence in hackathons. That is talking about how important it is to be persistent while in a hackathon. So usually what happens is when you're in a hackathon, it is gonna be rather boring sometimes because let's say you're working on the same thing for a span of 48 hours. It's gonna be like a little, what do you call, hard for you to keep going, keep coding for that long amount of time, and it might feel like at certain times that you're not going to be able to finish, and it's not you're not going to be able to get done with everything, which is a fair thing to feel. But trust me on this, I have a story for you from this. Okay, so when I was attending my second hack, I had applied for DSC VIT, whose stream you're watching right now, and on the same night as the hackathon, where I had a project for my hackathon which I had to complete, I got a mail from DSC VIT saying that you have to complete these two projects and come to the interview tomorrow. If you cannot complete them, they didn't mention that, but like if I did not complete them, I wouldn't get in. So in that specific night, I had to complete 3 projects. And honestly, that was really a defining moment of my life. I did complete all these 3 projects. You can't always get everything, so I didn't really win the hackathon, but I got selected into the DSC VIT, and I think that was so much worth it. That was so worth it, right? And that was a really good experience. So I just want to say that persistence pays off, I think.
Yeah. So moving on, we just received a question from Anchal. She's asking what is Major League Hack, and I think Sharanya is someone who would be best to answer this question. Over to you, Sharanya.
So MLH or Major League Hacking is basically something. It's like a league for student hackathons. They conduct over 200 weekend challenges or hackathons. They conduct sessions and everything. And it's more sort of where you get a lot of learning experience. Right, and along with that, they help you organize events, and they keep organizing. Right now, because of the pandemic, there are many online events also going on. So yeah, this MLH is providing all opportunities for people, and it formulates the and every year, every after every academic season, it formulates the winner for the league, and participation and prizes and many more swags you get through MLH. Yeah, so this is all about MLH.
Yeah, okay. So I think we have another question that is from Dinesh. He asked, suggests us a few algorithms, like probably the most important one. I'm going to be honest, I don't really understand what you mean by that. What sort of algorithms? Are you talking about, data structures and algorithms, or algorithms for a hackathon process, like how you should go about a hackathon, or how you should, maybe come up with an idea or something like that? Please do mention that in the chat again. Thank you. Yeah, so
Yeah, so
coming back to persistence, I think is we've answered two questions now. This also applies to our other topic that we have today, which is overnight projects. And it's really important to mention that overnight projects are rather similar to hackathons in this one way, that the persistence where you put in all-nighters while completing some projects is similar to hacks, because you're going to get something out of it eventually, which is really going to help you. I think we have some cool stories regarding overnight projects and hackathons regarding this, right?
yeah, we have a story from Ritik Verma. Yeah, he was making a pick and place robot for a technical fest, and just the day before the event, the electronic equipment stopped working, and so they had to gather all night in outside the hostel and make the bot working. And this was a hectic experience, especially in the winter cold of Punjab. It is indeed a Herculean task to actually stay up all night and make up a bot that too working, and that too for a technical fest. That was more that's an overnight project experience, and even I was a part of the same team, though I was not present at that time. And that particular bot stood fourth in the event, and that's pretty good. That shows that efforts do pay off. Yeah.
Yeah, that's there. Now, now that we're talking about overnight projects, I too have a story from one of my friends in DSC VIT. Her name's Rithi Gupta. And she shared with me about one of our overnight projects. And she says that it's, when you're working on overnight projects, especially in hostel, in the hostel, your canteen closes by 12 a.m. So after 12, you need to have a stock inside of your room, inside your room, so that you can actually stuff yourself up and not get too exhausted while working on it. And working on a project in the middle of the hostel at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. is something, when people see you, they look up to you as to what you're doing, and they actually are interested into what you're doing.
Yeah,
And
absolutely, I think.
it is, and when you actually complete this project and you showcase it, you feel a lot. The feeling of achievement associated with that is transcending. And she does say that it's pretty amazing, because after, in the end, just like Ashutosh mentioned, doing your overnight project and getting some recognition for it is something that is going to take you very far, because it gives you a lot of motivation to do it up again and again and again. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very true, dude. And we have a really good question right here. Is that what does ML have in any hackathon? And I think I can answer your question in a really good way, which answers a lot of others' question. Is that no specific technology has anything to do specifically with a hackathon. Now, it now also, like, that's not something that's there by default, but it may or may not be there. So what happens in a hackathon is that you'll have a lot of tracks, okay? So these tracks can be about anything. These cast tracks can be about the best website development, the best design, the best ML, the best use of a certain technology, basically. And there's a lot of tracks like these. Even in VIT right now, which happened in VIT Velour, is that's exactly what happened. There were a lot of tracks which were pertaining to a specific technology. So if you're good at a specific technology, you can use it well. Yes, you can benefit from it. But if you're just talking about the basic vanilla hackathon, is that you need to know that your idea and its implementation is what matters. Yes, ML will have some benefits. It'll, get you to make some better projects than some other projects we may or may not have ML. But that's about it, I think. We have another question is that discussing and planning the idea versus implementation, in what ratio should it be? Like how long should we focus on each category in hackathons? So I think it's very important to mention is that you don't come up with the idea during the hackathon. You come up with the idea before the hackathon. So every hackathon that you participate in, be it rather online or offline, you have to notice that you apply for the hackathon weeks before the actual hackathon happens, and in that application you have to enter the idea and you have to enter your team name and everything. That's a different story though, but you have to enter the idea there and then. You can change the idea a little bit, but you really should not completely deviate from what you've selected.
Yeah, Ashutosh, like I'll be love to add one point as VK asked that what is our role of ML. So as you have mentioned that there is no specific technology or pathway which has been like usually a hackathon there is a theme exactly. So we work on it, but the like most important factor that I've seen my friends own many of the hackathon is that combining 2 or 3 technologies together. Like you can deploy your ML model on a website or Android device, and like you make something out of it. You, like don't like go if you're going in a stereotype like I will be working on a machine learning model only. So why don't you combine 2 of the technologies and make it another level? So I think it attracts most of the jury member and the judges. So I think anybody can try it out because most of my friend has tried it out and own a lot of hacks.
Yeah, this makes really sense. So we have another question: do social engineering have individual projects in hackathons? Now, I would like you to mention what you actually mean by social engineering, because the actual meaning of social engineering is not something you would have in a hackathon, but it is definitely something you can do in a hackathon, I think. Just let me in, okay, once again. Another question that we have is, what should a perfect pitch entail? I think Sharanya can answer that, as she's won a hackathon before and she probably would have given a perfect pitch, I guess. Sharanya, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, actually, the hackathon I won was totally online and we just had one kind of meeting stuff. So that was not a perfect pitch. But yeah, to give a perfect pitch, one thing is you need to be confident while speaking, especially when you're presenting your idea or your project while you're pitching the project. You should sound pretty confident with whatever you have done. That is which actually matters. How much ever you have developed, if you don't know how to express it, then that wouldn't count or towards your winning. So yeah, Bose actually has done many of this. I guess you can answer it as well.
Yeah, yes, Sharan. Like I had to add one of my experiences. Great, no, it's a great question exactly. So yeah, it's not about all the lines of quality code, efficient code. It's do matter the moment you start explaining somebody. Okay, so like majorly what happened is that a lot of sponsors do come for the hackathon, right? So eventually you use their technologies to empower your project. So how do you make that project unique for the commercial purpose? For example, like perfect pitching should be like, what is the use exactly? Like if you have made a tremendous project but you can't explain it properly, that doesn't make sense, right? So what are the new features on it and how it can be beneficial for the community and for a long run? I think that makes sense for the sponsorship, like the company those are sponsoring and the jury member those are looking forward to it. Exactly like what happened with us is that we actually went for the next round. It was Hack in India, one of the big hackathon virtually. So our application got crashed eventually. But the way we are presented is that we never made them realize our application is going to crash. We actually made it a trick that this moment it might happen. So you need to understand that there are certain strategies. If things doesn't work on your own code, anytime anything can happen. So you need to prepare for it anytime. Sure.
Yeah. So I have something to say about this. When you have your pitches that are there. And another question that we've received on the same topic is by Angad Sharma. He says, I made a project that was better than the project that won a hackathon. My pitch also went great. What do you think could have happened, and how do we tackle such a failure in the future? So Angad, first, when now that you said that your project was better than the project that won the hackathon, I'm assuming that you had a pretty good and detailed idea about your project. So now the second thing that is there is when your jury members are looking at are in the reviews, and when they're looking at your idea, one thing that they will focus on is your innovativeness. And the second thing is, I mean, this is for everyone, who has a high idea, and they've been working on the outlines of it. Sometimes what happens is, if you're not crystal clear about your idea, if you do not have exact A to Z knowledge about what you will be doing, how you'll be doing it, and how would you go about it, a lot of people would become disinterested in your idea midway, while you're speaking, while you're giving your pitch. And it is something that shows, because if you have an idea about maybe incorporating an ML model in a web app, and if you keep repeating the phrase that we'll be using machine learning to give a prediction of this, we'll be using machine learning to give a prediction of that, that will again give an impression that you only know that you will be implementing machine learning. You do not know, or you do not know how you will be implementing machine learning, or why you are actually doing that. And that is something that is pretty important. So the quality of your pitch depends on how well aware about your idea and your implementation you really are. And again, your passing the review and winning the hack depends on how innovative and connected your solution is to the given problem statement. So I hope that answers the question. Now, the next topic that we would be talking about is what to do if the idea is too hard to implement. And I think Ashutosh has something to say about it. So,
Yeah.
going over to Ashutosh.
Yeah. So I think I'll talk about my first hackathon again. I said that I'll be discussing the idea again in a little bit. So my first hackathon, I came up with an idea which was really good in my opinion, but we weren't really able to implement it eventually. But we did learn one thing from that, is that the idea. Okay, I'll tell you about the idea first. Okay, so the idea was basically an ML-based workout recommendation system. So basically, it tracks your activity, it tracks your calorie intake, and then it tells you what sort of workout is best for you. Okay. And so what we did was we did ask we did try to work it ourselves, but like our ML developer was a beginner, I was a beginner, and all of us were beginners basically. So we weren't really able to implement it. But one thing we really learned from it was that you need to ask help if you're in a hackathon. There's a lot of mentors, there's a lot of people around you, in a physical hackathon at least, there's a lot of people around you, and there's a lot of people around you in online hackathons too. There's mentors in VIT hack that happened in VIT Vellore right now a while ago. There were a lot of mentors there, and these mentors can always help you out if you're facing any sort of problem. You just have to be on the right path, ask these guys for some help, and you need to communicate. This also brings us on a really big topic, is that communication in hackathons is key. It's you have to talk to the mentors around you. You have to talk to the judges around you. Judges are going to come from reviews, which we talked about earlier. There's multiple reviews in a hackathon, and these you have to talk to these guys, because these guys eventually, let's say in another year or something, you're good enough for a job. Let's say these guys are going to help you get that first internship. So mentors like these, people like these, are something you want to have connections with. Even in VIT Hack right now, which happened a while ago, yesterday basically, there was a company called Winual which was there, and which was helping, which was giving internships or something to people who were participating in the hackathon. There was they were considering, they're basically looking out for new talent. We have a question from Aditya now, is that are practical labs available to practice for hackathons? Practical labs. Okay, so if you want to practice for a hackathon,
The
let's say
best way to practice for a hackathon is to participate in it,
yes,
because
exactly.
every participation actually calls itself as a practice.
Yeah, this one hackathon is not going to be a final hackathon. Okay, if you want to participate in a hackathon, what you have to do is go to a hackathon and maybe fail in it. We have to fail to learn, basically. So let's say you go into a hackathon, you aren't able to fully implement the idea, but the next hackathon you go to, you'll know what you did wrong in the first one, and you're gonna, who knows, you might even win. Nice question, Aditya.
Yeah, so we were discussing what if ideas are very hard to implement. So, speaking on this, I would also like to add on we find a lot of mentors for the hackathons. So, you can always reach out to them. They are highly skilled, especially, and that's why they are mentors. And that's somewhere you can actually look out for when you need help. Even if you're, but the thing is, you should always keep your ideas practical. So, that's also important. Tanmay, would you like to add on?
Yeah, so now when we talk about what if the idea is too hard to implement and how practical or something would your idea be? Again, it is something that you need to know that you need to know about how well you can implement your own idea, right? And again, the ideation phase of the entire hackathon is there for this reason itself, so that you can come up with suitable methods of implementation of your particular idea. And that gives you time to actually discuss and think about it, whether it is too hard to implement or not. If it is too hard and but you still feel that it is something that you will be able to do, or if you push yourself a lot you can do it, go on about it. But then again, you should know that you have to push yourself for it, and you have to work extra hard than anyone that might be working on an idea which is already planned and which isn't too hard for them. And that, I think, is there that's pretty
I
important.
think that really brings us to the next topic, that is how to get through reviews and hackathons. So I think I need to mention this for our new hack members, hack enthusiasts, is that every hackathon is going to have a bunch of reviews. Okay, they're gonna have like at least 2 reviews. Let's say. Okay, so VIT hack, although this time had I think only 1 review. I'm not 100% sure, but usually hacks have multiple reviews, and what they'll do is, let's say they have 3 reviews. Okay, in the first review they'll see what your progress is, how you're faring well with your idea, if you're going on the right path as what you suggested in your idea when you submitted the application. In the second review they might judge your progress, and by the third review, which is basically usually the pitch, the third review, or the final review I mean, is usually the pitch that you have to show your project in front of the whole audience. They discuss and they will judge you on the basis of these reviews, and that's how they'll judge if you win or not, or what position you get, or what track you fare well in, basically. Now, one question I have is, what from Ritik Jain, by the way, what things would you do differently in a virtual hackathon as compared to an in-person hack? Would anyone like to answer that?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a significant difference that I did notice in the virtual hackathons, though I've only been in virtual hackathons. But I've helped DSC VIT organize a few offline hackathons, WomenTechies being the most prominent one. So something that I did notice, a big difference that is there, is sometimes during reviews, people can work their way around certain things. Say for example, I had a friend who was with his team, and they wanted to implement their idea based on computer vision, and they did not know computer vision at all, and it is fairly moderate to hard technology to learn by itself. So what they did was they were partially able to implement the idea. The next thing that they did was the remaining part, they created a video, edited it suitably, and shared their screen during the review and showed them this implementation. Now, what this did was it helped them, take their idea to a level where they can actually tell the jury members that this is what will be happening, even though we might not be able to implement it completely. And the second most important thing that is there in a virtual hackathon is you're at home and you can eat whatever you want, drink whatever you want, sleep whenever you want. You can sleep at on your beds and not on the chairs. And I think it's pretty amazing that way. So yeah.
Exactly. I think that's a really good point to mention. And I think we have a really good question from Aditya, who's been very active, by the way. Thank you, Aditya. Is that if we had an idea but don't really know how to implement it, then what should we do? And that brings us to a really good topic. Is that, by the way, I already mentioned what happens when our idea is too hard. Like we already talked about it, Aditya. But I think I'll mention it again. Is that you need to talk to your seniors. You need to talk to the mentors at the hack. You need to talk to them, and they will tell you. They will definitely tell you how to go about the idea basically. So let's say you had an idea that I had. Okay, I had an idea that would that idea that would recommend workout based on the person's activities, the calorie intake. So we knew we needed an UI for it, and the UI is usually made using basically HTML and CSS. So we need a website, right? And we have to predict something. So according to that, may or may not use machine learning, because if there's a clear logic that can be applied which doesn't require ML, why would you use ML, right? So yeah, there's a lot of things that go into that. But other than that, there's also one really cool thing is that I have a story which I think explained that better. So this story is from Angad. It says that he was in first year and he went to a hackathon organized by a club in VIT, and they had a really weird problem statement. Okay, and it said like it was built for the zombie apocalypse, as it says. Okay, and they aim to build a blockchain-based barter system. So basically, I think that kind of understandable. I think barter system in a zombie apocalypse really makes sense, right? So, but no one in their team actually knew blockchain. So what do we do? What do they do? But like they didn't really go with the the conventional way of learning new things. They just made a simple C++ data structure blockchain where all the data was actually being stored in the RAM of the computer itself, so which isn't really a blockchain. But the technical judges didn't notice that, and they actually won the first place in the hackathon. So I'm not gonna tell that that's exactly what you have to do. But that's something you could do, I guess, if you can.
Yeah. So there's one thing that Sharu over here has an amazing virtual hackathon experience that I think she share with everyone. And Sharu.
Yeah, just a second. Yeah, recently I had an experience of a virtual hackathon that I recently won. In that, I, along with my core team member at DSC, Ravanshu, we had taken part in that, and we made a very simple AR project. And what the main thing that I noticed, the difference between being virtual hack and hack at place, is that you get to in virtual space you do things at the comfort of your home. So that is a plus point here. But the minus point here is that you don't get to interact with mentors or your peers live. So yeah, because everything is virtual, you cannot do that. So this is one of the main difference that I've noticed. And also one more thing is in-person hackathons, you get a lot of experience in networking with people, and that is a little less when it comes to the virtual states.
Yeah, Sharu, I think that's great. Actually, I like to one add a point, right? Many of the juniors and all the newbies, often ask that should we stop, contributing the project that we have started in the hackathon. Like I'll be sharing one of the experiences that I have been in my last hack, like last to last hack. Actually, we like I'll be giving a brief introduction, like what we did exactly. So we are working on an application like it will be a runtime ATM machine. Like if you are using our application and if you are like in a rural area, you don't have ATM, but you have internet connectivity. You like pop like button off of application. If the near person who is also using our application can come up and share the cash, and you get online transactions. So it was a basic, very pretty like basic idea of sharing the money if you are like in any emergency basis. So our idea was very, like according to the judges, it was innovative, though we couldn't make it for the final, but we actually did it to the top 20s. But what happened is that like the fun fact what happened is that so we actually explained everything, the technologies which I've used, the understanding, and what are the fruit, like what are the exact outcome of this project. So after the hackathon, I got a message from the jury member. They said that why don't you continue the project, and they eventually pitched us and they started collaborating with us so that we can continue that project in the future also. So I think that makes very amazing, inspiring for us that we didn't got selected, but our project has something which might not took place in the winning slot, but eventually made a mark in someone's mind that we can, like, jury member can come up and work with you guys. So always think positive, like positive, like things can happen in your way. So I think that's make good like experience that I've learned in my past. So that's it.
Yeah, I think that's a
Yeah,
great point.
so
Yeah, go on, Tanmay.
yeah, I mean, it's actually a pretty amazing point, and talking about your ideas and how do you go about hackathons. A certain thing that some people do notice is cheating in hackathons, and how should you cheat, or should you cheat, or should you not cheat, or
Yeah,
why do people cheat in that?
yeah.
So I
So
think
usually,
Ashutosh would like to go on this.
yeah. So I already mentioned that story yeah, about Angad, right? How they made a fake blockchain, basically. But one important thing to know is a lot of time, usually cheaters are not really going to win. Okay, this is a rare scenario, and usually the technical judges are smart enough to figure out what's happening behind the scenes, right? So you don't really have to worry so much about the cheating in hackathons as long as you're implementing your project, okay? Because you may not win the first prize money if you actually are a victim of this, but you definitely earn everything that you would have anyway, right? So, like, you did get the experience. I guess that's what you take out of it. There's nothing you can do as long as you really don't. If they're not caught, they're not cheaters. I guess that's what you could say. We have a question right here from Suma Krishna. It says, "I see people implementing projects like SOS apps for women's safety. While the cause is noble, these are not practical in the critical time. What are your tips on the implementational feasibility?" I think I actually came up with an idea like this a while ago, and honestly, what I can say about this is there's hundreds of apps like these out there right now. There's so many apps like these. This is not even something that you can use in a hack anymore. This idea, unless you're coming up with something new. And the point is, yeah, of course, when you are in an SOS situation, I guess you could say is like that. Um, these apps aren't really going to work because the person's not really going to let you use the phone, I guess. But let's. I guess Sharanya would like to continue on this. She might have, more some things to add to it.
Yeah, like if you are making a practical solution for the same, it's true that there are a lot of apps and especially practical solutions. But the thing is, if implementing the same idea over and over again without any kind of innovation would actually mean nothing. So to implement for the implementation feasibility, what you need to do is to actually pitch your super innovative idea along with all the innovations in a hackathon that actually asks you for that could turn into a startup idea, and that's what I would say.
Yeah, I guess we can take some good points from that, and I would like to wrap up by just saying this, just leaking up this one last question. I think which is very important is how do I participate in a hackathon? So one thing you need to know is that if you're a junior, you need to follow the Instagram pages of a lot of clubs. We have plugged our Instagram page on top right there, and you need to make sure that you know what's happening in your college, because you'll see a lot of hackathons happening soon. The hackathon season is upcoming actually, and if you're not into that, if you're not into trying to find hackathons, what you can do is you can go to some websites like Hackerers or MLH itself, and you can find hackathons that are going on, which are online hacks usually, and you can also go simple offline hacks also, right? That's a good idea. That's a good idea for going to a hack, I think. And as long as if you're worrying that you might not want to go for a hack like that just because you're a beginner, honestly, you'll stay a beginner if you don't go for a hack. You have to go for a hack, and then you'll not be a beginner anymore. Just take one more question. I guess we just got it. It's that what do you prefer for making awesome presentations? For a hackathon, I think something you can use PowerPoint, right, for a normal presentation, and you can make it really good, but that requires some effort. But if if you're experienced with it, or you want to become experienced with it, you could use Figma for amazing presentations, right? And Figma has basically you can go to Figma and check out on some YouTube tutorials for this. You can make some really aesthetically pleasing, really amazing presentations on Figma. That's what we use for our second hack, by the way. Just saying. So we'd like to wrap up right now. I think this was enough. So, is there anything you'd like to add, both Sharanya and May? Anything you want to say before we wrap this up?
One thing I would like to add here is stick to practical ideas and form teams with people of diverse skills so that you get a whole learning experience. It's not that you need to team up with your friends or something like that. Just widen your network and find people with different skills. This is really going to help you learn in a hackathon. Over to you.
Yeah. And another thing that I would like to add is don't hesitate to connect with people, because it is here that you will find the most number of people with the same sort of a mindset as you. And it will actually help you a lot in the future. So do not hesitate to talk to or connect to people, mentors, anyone. So yeah.
And yeah, Tanmay, I'd like to add one last point is that for all the newbies, those who are looking forward to have their first hack, just go for it. Don't be confused at what to do and what not to. And those who are many of the newbies will be facing a lot of issue while in the midway of the hackathon. Don't let yourself come out like say, okay, give up. I'll give up. Don't do that. It's a marathon. So stick to your point, stay calm, believe in yourself, and understand the power of team management, and always be a positive. Like any issue, like it may be a positive sign for you. You're thinking that's a negative, but throughout the hackathon or any competition you're on to, maybe late night projects or overnight like hackathons, be positive throughout the journey. It doesn't really matter what you own, goodies or swag. Matter is that what you have learned out of it, and it will make you much more pro for the next one. So if you're planning to win something, I'll rather say go for it and attend a hackathon to grab the experience that will eventually become the fuel to own and for the long run. Yeah, I think that's from my side.
Yes, exactly. And I think as soon as you start participating in hacks, you'll find us in our positions, and you'll be the one mentoring juniors very soon. Okay. And I'd like to wrap up with just saying that we have our own hackathon coming soon at DSC VIT called Dev Jams. And if you want to know when it's going to happen, if you want any updates from DSC VIT, just follow us on Instagram and Twitter. DSC VIT. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in, guys.